Hi, I'm Robin Waite, author of Online Business Startup, and in the video this afternoon I'm going to give you my top 4 tips for setting aims, objectives and goals for your business. So my first tip is to be smart. Be specific, measurable, actionable, realistic and time-bound. And what I mean by that is that, so in terms of specific, make sure you know exactly what it is that you're going to be, or what your exact goals are going to be. Measurable, over what time periods are these going to happen? What are the key performance indicators? How do you know that you've actually achieved that objective? Make sure that they're actionable so that you know that you can do them, and you have the time scale, you have the time and the resources available to you to be able to do that. Make sure that they're realistic. It's okay to shoot for the moon, but do you have the resources to build a rocket and actually land on the moon? What's the closest that you might actually be able to get to that? And then make sure that they're time bound. So you're setting specific time bound objectives, things that are going to happen in 1, 3, 5, 10 years time that you can then measure against. Also, this provides a structure to objectives, and it's very difficult to falter, and it kind of is a very grounding process to go through to make sure that you're referring to the SMART principles every time you create objectives. It determines the challenges and bottlenecks that your business might face. So if you can see that something is not realistic, it gives you the opportunity to ask, well, why isn't that realistic? What bottleneck are we creating for ourselves here, and how are we going to overcome that? My second tip is to work backwards. A lot of people, when they create business plans, for example, and set themselves objectives, start at 0 and then work their way forward 3 years, 1, 3, 5, 10. I encourage clients to visualize where they want to be by years 10, 5, 3 and 1, and work backwards to day 0, because what it does is it's a very useful tactic for analyzing the objectives or the end objective, and identify what are the steps that you need to reach your end goal. So say, for example, if you're chucking it out there, your magic number is to sell your business in 5 years' time for £10 million. Well, if for the first 4 years of your business's life, you've chugged along at 150k, well, you're not going to be able to sell your business for £10 million. So, but what it allows you to do is say, okay, well, if I need to achieve 10, well, my J curve looks like, 5 million, 3 million, 1 million, and £250,000, for example. So you can actually work your way backwards to where you are now. Also, it means that you can break down your plan into a series of manageable steps. £10 million might seem like a really unachievable step to, place to be. Whereas maybe £250,000 in your first year is much more manageable and achievable. So break the objectives down into a number of smaller steps in order to visualize how, where your end goal is going to be. My third tip is to plan for the future. In the coaching sessions which I do with some clients, I would say that maybe 5% of those clients have considered an exit strategy. And an exit strategy, for a long time, I actually felt as though an exit strategy was quite a defeatist thing. I've now realised that an exit strategy is actually really appealing to an entrepreneur because it gives you something to shoot for. When you're considering an exit strategy, it might not necessarily be like selling the business. It might be handing that business down to future generations of your family, for example, or as part of that exit strategy, you're going to go through a stage of growing your business so you end up with a team and then a management team and then a board structure, and then finally you sell and exit your business. Typically what I see is businesses who have considered an exit strategy have the systems and processes in place that they've documented to make their business very scalable. And over the long term, that strategy of documenting everything does tend to deliver value to a business. And it's a legitimate objective. Like I said, I used to see it as a defeatist thing. Now I see it as well, okay, I can get out of the business in 5 years' time and move on to the next project. As entrepreneurs, we're just always, I don't know about you, but I'm always full of ideas and always just want to tinker and play with stuff and move on to the next idea. So it means that it gives you the opportunity to close down what you're doing now and open up the next chapter in your story. And it also helps you to determine the longer term turnover and net profit that you require to exit your business. So if your magic number is £1 million in 5 years' time that you want to have sat in the bank from exiting your business, you know exactly what turnover you need to have at that point, and what net profit you need to have at that point, and what multiples you need to get from an investor in order to achieve that exit value. My fourth tip is to regularly audit and review. So you've gone through a process of setting out key performance indicators and set your SMART objectives. Again, I see a lot of businesses at this point who don't come back to those a year later and ask themselves or measure whether they've actually achieved those or not. And it's a really vital, for example, if you're very clear about the fact that you want to exit, if you don't audit and you're falling below those KPIs which you've set for yourself, then it's likely that you're on a course for failure. But if you've checked them after a year and you're slightly below those KPIs, it gives you an opportunity to reevaluate where you're at. Simple things, especially in like the web world, you can take advantage of free tools like Google Analytics. So by the time you've worked backwards, and if your turnover for a year has to be £100,000, your widgets cost £1,000, you know you've got to sell 1,000 of those. And you can start to create a sales funnel for your business. And you know that it takes, let's say, for example, 10,000 visitors per month to your website to sell 10 widgets per month. Well, you can use tools like Google Analytics to track how many visitors you're getting to your website, set up a goal conversion at the end of a funnel so that you can see that people land on the homepage, they view your widget, your product page, they click on the buy now button, and then they finally check out. And that's called a goal conversion. It means that you can readily check on your progress and review back at the end of the year how many widgets you've sold through simple free tools like Google Analytics. And like I said, it means that you can analyze places where you might be underperforming against your KPIs. And ultimately, this will bring you much closer to your end objectives. It allows you as well, if for any reason you're failing and your widgets aren't selling as well as you'd expected, it means that you can question the marketplace and work out what barriers are preventing you from selling those widgets. And if there just isn't the demand for it, you can pivot. It means you can crack on with some of your other ideas at a much earlier stage. So just to summarize those key points, tip number 1, be smart with your objectives. Tip number 2, work backwards from your end goal. Tip number 3, plan for the future. What ultimately is your exit strategy? What does that look like to you? And tip number 4, make sure that over the next 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years time, that you regularly audit and review against your KPIs that you've set yourself. Hope you enjoyed the video and you found some great helpful tips in there. If you enjoyed watching the video, then please do go to my website, which is onlinebusinessstartup.co.uk. Or if you haven't already, then please head on over to Amazon and check out my book, Online Business Startup. So thanks once again for watching the video. I hope you found some of the tips helpful. And if you've got any questions, then please do leave some comments in the boxes below the video. If you want to be informed about any future videos which I upload, then please click here to subscribe. And then finally, if you haven't already, head on over to Amazon using this button just here to buy the book, Online Business Startup. Thanks for watching. I'm Robin Waite.